In Ezekiel, the book written on both sides becomes a scroll written on both sides. The scroll, as the archetype requires, is held by a hand. In his revelation, the Apostle John likewise saw a book written on both sides and held by a hand, the right hand. That God was seated upon his throne suggests that the book was resting upon his lap, like the Torah of creation. The Torah, written with black fire on white fire, was more than a book of law. It was that, of course, but it also envisioned a covenant with God and a way of life under the covenant and set of laws. There is another way of life written with black and white. It is called the Tao. The Tao is symbolized by the CXII, most commonly represented with a circle enclosing two interlocking black and white spirals with two black and white dots superimposed on them. The image of the CXII is not confined to Eastern philosophy. Roman infantry legions sometimes carried the image on their shields. The two spirals represent the principles of yin and yang. Yin, the female, negative, and passive principle, is represented by the black spiral. Yang, the male, active, and positive principles, is represented by the white spiral. Yin and Yang, light and dark, are a Chinese formulation of the twins archetype of light and dark semicircles created by the crescent as it revolved during the daily cycle of the sun. David Talbot made the connection in his classic, The Saturn Myth. The connection is easily apprehended when the various symbols of yin and yang are placed next to each other. There are right and left swirls, just as there were right and left crescents, as these mirror images demonstrate. As the archetype demands, there are top and bottom versions of the yin and yang, as there were the above and below crescents. Further evidence to support the origin of yin and yang from the twins motif is the relationship of the Tao symbol with the lotus. Now, we've demonstrated previously that the lotus is a form of the enclosure formed by the crescents. In this picture, the circle of the yin and yang resides within the petals of a lotus flower, the position of the conjunction of Mars and Venus. The symbol of the yin and yang is also associated with the eye of God, again pointing to the conjunction of Mars and Venus and the enclosure. The yin and yang are part of the world tree, which brings us back to the Kabbalah's tree of life. Although the CXII is known as the yin and yang symbol, more properly it consists of 5 parts, with the yin and yang symbol representing the second part. This brings us back full circle, as it were, to the Kabbalah and the Torah. Both the CXII and the Kabbalistic tree of life consist of circles in a linear arrangement. Again, they are representations of the polar configuration. Both also incorporate the duality of light and dark from the archetype of the twins. Whereas the light and dark of the Tao represent respectively the Yang principles of activity and positivity and the Yin principles of passivity and negativity. The same duality of the Kabbalah exists on the one hand, extended for judgment, and the other hand extended for mercy. Furthermore, both are balanced in the middle. Like the Tree of Life and the Tao, the Torah, as the written law, balances the dualities of mercy and justice, black and white, and left and right. The Zohar, the basic text of the Kabbalah, citing Deuteronomy, explains the balance or tempering of the opposites. The right and left hands are essentially transformed into one hand, a form of the sacred hand clasp. The tablets upon which the laws were written also reflect the twins archetype. The two tablets are the two twins, each tablet representing one of the opposite pairs. In this interpretation, the two tablets have merged into one whole. The words engraved upon the tablets are superimposed, or expressed alternatively, written on the front and the back or within and on the back side. The Book of Life, like the Torah, combines multiple facets of the twin motif. Though not explicitly stated, the Book of Life was likely written within and on the back side. Indeed, almost all texts are written in this manner. Secondly, the Book of Life is the book used to make judgment on mankind. This would require the incorporation of both mercy and justice within its pages. Finally, the Book of Life records the names of only those worthy of eternal life, hence its name. But what of those who merit spiritual death? There must be a second book which records these names. According to the Book of Jubilees, there is such a book, and appropriately it's called the Book of Death. The Last Judgment itself also follows the twin motif. Iconographically, the judgment is portrayed with the righteous on one hand and the wicked on the other, as in this altarpiece. Or the righteous saints are above the wicked, as in Michelangelo's version in the Sistine Chapel.